I think locally, I think if you're starting out trying to get into shops, you going in there and talking to them and just building that relationship, they're all relationships in their own way. And you got to sustain those. Like if you open an order and you don't deliver on time, that relationship's hindered already. Like you have got to keep your word and do what you say you're going to do. But being able to go into a shop, speak to them, know who you're working with, get to know them a little bit. To me, it's like, I think my emotional intelligence is way higher than my actual intelligence. I'm really good with people. And I'm coming from the youngest of 4 siblings. I've had a lot of experiences. I love to connect with people. And I think you got to break that down first. If you're not just go straight into a sale, like really get to understand how long they've been in business, how long have you worked here, ask more questions to get them to talk about themselves a bit more. So while they're talking, you're just getting bullet points to put in your pocket. Which one do you want to pull out? And does it make sense in that moment to pull that out? Because that's going to be the most resonating at that moment.
Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. If you're looking for real conversations with real people, you're the right place. Let's go!
All right, guys. Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. Today, we are blessed and impressed to have Mr. Sean Holmes joining us.
What up, Sean?
Yay!
Guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, Sean Holmes, if you don't know him, you're about to. He's one of the founder of Nectar, killer sunglass company, right? When was it started, Sean? How long have you been in business?
13 years, 2012.
13 years. Jeez Louise.
Still doing it.
Yeah,
Still doing it. Right? So talk to us a little bit, Sean. Tell us kind of like your story. How did you get started? Where did this originate?
Yeah, so originally was in college playing baseball at a high level, realized that my future in that world was pretty limited, and got an opportunity to work with an entrepreneur at that time that was doing squeeze pages, internet marketing when emails were hot, when everybody opened emails back in the day.
Yeah.
Affiliate stuff, making a lot of money at a young age. He might have been 30 at that time. Moved down to Atlanta, Georgia to work with him and just learn. So I dropped out of school, quit baseball my senior year just because of that opportunity and went down and just, I remember learning so much. He was feeding me books, and my best friends at the time, he was from the military. He wanted to do this as well. So we were both doing this together. We actually started a fitness company similar to P90X, a high interval training type of workout that was 21 minutes long, super intense. And it wasn't a passion of mine. It was just, what did I know? Well, I had a personal trainer for 4 years from college. I knew that this style of workout was better than running for a long period of time or stagnant type workouts. But my buddy John, coming from the military, he needed structure. And as you guys know, entrepreneurship is anything but structured, especially in the early days.
Right.
And he was his mind. He just couldn't do it. And it slowly kind of fell apart. At that point in my life, I left Virginia. My whole family told everybody I was going to start a business. And I felt like I just completely failed at that point. But I did learn how to build a website, how to build affiliate links, how to do all these things fundamentally that were valuable. And at that point, just living in Atlanta, had student loans coming in for the first time, thinking, holy, I need to make money. And then had a buddy that I grew up with as well that was one of the co-founders of Nectar. He was floating around Outer Banks, reached out saying, hey, I want to start a business too. You did this, like, let's do something. And after that failure, I learned I need to make sure that what I do is something that I'm passionate about. And more so the brand was what we were trying to create, a brand that resembled things that we wanted to do. So when we grew up surfing, skating, snowboarding, to me, that would be an epic job to have, to go surf around the world and get paid to do that. But since we weren't good enough, let's create a brand around that type of lifestyle. And so eyewear came into the picture of, let's make a brand that, we can live vicariously through, if you will, and work with surfers and different types of athletes and build a brand around that. So Atlanta, Georgia, in an apartment down there was where the ideas and everything started taking shape. One of my favorite little nuggets is the name Nectar. For a while, my roommate John, who was my previous business partner, very blunt, very honest. I trust him with my life, and every day we'd come up with names, and he'd come in the door from work, and we'd say, John, what about this? And he would give us his real response. So when Nectar, we found that, got the domain, everything matched up, and he came in the door and we said, "Hey, what do you think about Nectar?" And he first response was weak. And then and that kind of threw us like, dang, like I thought it felt good. He said it sounded feminine. And then we kind of stuck with it and thankful that we did. At that point, we were looking at samples saying, like, what are you? Coming up with Latin words that weren't
Right.
English. At the end of the day, we want it to be simple, 2 syllables. What is or memorable? And Nectar, we were like, these are sweet glasses. Nectar is sweet. And it kind of just fit that mold of what we were looking for. And, thankful that we stuck with it instead of picking a different name. Um,
Sweet. Dude, this is sweet. It kind of like, I like it.
yeah. And the slogan early on was the sweet life. How can we work with people who live that lifestyle or want to live as aspirationally,
Right.
wanting to do those things and go on surf trips, do snowboard trips, go on epic hikes and really experience nature in the right ways. So yeah, so in Atlanta, in this apartment, at that point, had a mentor early on who mentioned, like, guys, you don't know anybody in this huge city. Why don't you go home where you're from and use your network there? And so at that point, my partner went to Florida for his job. I went back to Virginia and Richmond. Coming from VCU, I had a good network of college friends and just my family and friends there. And it seemed to take off. I think back in that time period, 2013, as you guys know, Facebook was wide open. I mean, we were doing like and share contests for one pair of classes, and we'd get 2,300 shares, 10,000 likes. It was like, I wish I had the hindsight to go back and just boost posts or do anything at that moment of how easy it was at that time. No restrictions on news feeds at that point.
No
But
fact
yeah,
checking.
yeah, that helped kind of grow. Initially, it was the visibility and collaborating with people early on. And the product back then was very simple. It was essentially a college party shade. We made a glow in the dark pair that didn't sell. It was like stupid stuff.
Right when you said that, it appealed to me. I was like, man, glow in the dark. That's awesome.
I mean, you got to
Please
try.
say you still have some of those though sitting
Yeah,
around. That'd be
I kind of
awesome.
have. I think we have one of everything that we've ever produced, from lime green to hot pink, and even a little nugget of that I learned along the way when we were starting to realize, like, yeah, there are best selling ones that are blacks, tortoises, neutral. Why isn't hot pink selling it? And some guy had mentioned to me one time, look around at all the cars you see. How many yellow cars do you see? And I said, not many. He said, yeah, because no one buys that. They want an everyday look.
Mm.
Somebody might wear that for an 80s party once a year, once every 5 years, but start developing things that people, will wear every day. And so at that point, we started pushing into retaining the colors, the pinks and blues and oranges in the lens while keeping the frames a bit more neutral. But yeah, we were selling a $13 product with, and I just remember for 2 years, I was working at a restaurant at night and then doing Nectar during the day. And I had the pieces at that time. I was building every pair by hand. So they were in my bedroom, all the pieces around my bed. So we had frames, lenses, fronts of the product, and I would go in living room, look up an order, run in my room, grab the pieces with gloves on, pop them together, screw the arms in, pop the lenses in, wrap them in tissue paper because we didn't have any packaging at that time. And then I would make a free first class mailer box, pop it in there with a note, and then that was an order. And it was very inefficient by a long shot, but fundamentally, I was able to see every single order. What were the trends? Not that I was documenting, but I think in any physical product world, forecasting is a challenge, and learning early on how much ahead of that you need to be. At that time, I would think, oh, we're good on black frames, and then 2 weeks would go by, and like, we are not good. We are not going to have black frames left. So that's always a challenge. I think in any physical inventory forecasting is tough. But yeah, it started as this college party shade, if you will, loud colors, and then over the years started developing into, hey, let's introduce polarized, and we went from $20 to 30, and we saw a reach for that. Okay, well, people are reaching that. There's a sweet spot here of $30, and still same quality, but just added that polarization. And over time, we just kept developing the product and increasing the quality. And that price kind of kept going up over the years. And we're at a point now where we're not going to go any higher. We want to stay in the pocket that we're in. But yeah, it's evolved from a basement apartment essentially to where we're at today.
I mean, what we hear so often is those stories of entrepreneurship that start in the garage. And I mean, instead of the garage, you started in your bedroom, doing that. And you see so many people like that, doing that fulfillment. I mean, they become every part of it. And I think entrepreneurship so often is a hobby that people pick up, and they want to do something, but then they get stuck in that and it never takes off. So you really grinded. I mean, you stuck with it, and I mean, it sounds like you did a lot of testing. You don't know what you don't know. You learned. You started seeing, hey, inventory control, forecasting, quality control, all these things. I mean, we can't do it this way. So was it just kind of learning by failure that kind of got you from there to where you are today?
Yeah, it's crazy to think I didn't necessarily go to school for business, but I feel like when I did that first journey with that entrepreneur, I learned more from him than I did all through school. It was things that I was taking in and retaining because I wanted to learn these things versus some classes in college that you might not care too much about. But at the same time, I love the adaptability. I love to adapt and evolve. And I think coming from that sports background of baseball and on time is late, just the fundamentals that you learn, and also just making small adjustments makes big differences. And just the repetitions and practice and failure is a part of baseball. Like if you go 3 for 10, your career, you're 300 hitter, you're a Hall of Famer, and you're
Yeah,
failing 7 times out of that. And
such a good point.
part of like that mental approach as well is that you have to fail to learn anything. I think in this world of like you don't know, you can plan the best to your ability and assume that if this works, it's going to do this, and if it doesn't, all right, we'll take that and carry the good pieces forward. And I think that's been an ongoing effort for me from a mental approach is that it's never going to be smooth. There's never any day that's home runs all the time. It's can we get a double and bunt somebody over and then hit a sacrifice fly? Now we gotta run. There's different ways to score and I try to keep that mindset of just keeping one foot in front of the other because it's easy to get into a negative mindset in any business, I think, especially early on. It's like you don't see those results right away.
Now, Sean, early on with these initial runs, like you said, hey, they came in and I was like building them, right? And shipping them out. Were these ones that you just, was there any twist on the manufacturing? Was there anything unique about those at that time? Or was it just your unique spin on branding, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think at that time there wasn't a ton of, you have the Smiths of the world that kind of hit the
Yeah.
outdoor Oakley, but there wasn't a bunch of companies doing a low price point like we were with as loud of colors and the brand that we were going after. Just that look and feel is really more of like a mature kind of brand. If you think of a Maui Jim or just the classic older companies, I think we wanted to come in with a fresh new look from a branding perspective. And eyewear, there's not a ton of differentiation in the materials, of what you can make sunglasses out of. No one's doing, wood. There's wood, but they're heavy and bulky. They don't feel good. Like there's some variations, but ultimately they're a lot of the similar materials. So the brand is really important. Can people resonate with that? Does it fit their lifestyle, their colors, their what they aspire to do? And I think that's was the goal early on is to build a brand. That's more important to build as it's an easy barrier to entry to make sunglasses. Anybody can go do it, but I know how hard it is to find a manufacturer, trust them, work through all the nuances of the potential issues that you could run into. And that part is very hard, but the brand is the piece that I think is something we're always working on constantly to evolve and grow, because that's what sets people apart as well.
I,
Absolutely. That
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
Good.
spot on with that. Uh, I want to talk about the brand and the manufacturing piece. When early
Mm.
on, so I'm assuming you probably went overseas for manufacturing. If you have
Yep.
a low price point product like that, I mean, you got to have low production costs for the manufacturing. So how did you get synced up? How did you find a manufacturer to start doing these for you?
I think it was my back then, the first order, we looked at ports and found who was making what, because I'm sure if anyone goes on Alibaba, there's so many options, you just don't know. So look kind of reverse back to who's making these brands already and reached out to those factories specifically, even though there's 1,000 factories that do eyewear. They're all probably pretty good at what they're doing, and that's just how we found the initial one. And I remember that first wire was pretty scary because you can't pronounce any of these roads. It's odd looking address. Hoping that they receive this and that it actually comes, and a little bit nerve wracking that first
Wow.
one. But I had taken some trips there years down the road just to really fully understand what goes into the manufacturing process, and I think they appreciated that I came across the world and got to really understand that what goes into it because handmade, you think of like a basket or someone sewing something, but there's so many hands that touch one product. It's really eye-opening when you go and see the process. There is a big molding machine that does the bulk, but there's polishing and screws and painting and a lot of things that are done with love and hands. So that helped me a lot in terms of understanding the manufacturing piece and how to evolve our product further. Just as small as like I recommend this to people who are working with overseas with factories, like they can always replicate what you want. They're going to say, yes, I can do this. And if you send them an example sample, they'll figure out how to reverse engineer it and make it. But what I learned early on was not early on, I would say 4 years in, that I need to ask more questions because they're going to say, hey, we got your sample. Here's what it's going to cost to make exactly something like this. And we had some issue with a lens at one point with the salt water. And they said, well, you can add a saltwater coating X amount of, dollars. And it was not a lot. I was like, well, yeah, I wish I knew about that before. I would have added this from day one. And so now when I approach factories, I ask them, okay, this is the quality you want. What are 2 or 3 steps above that? And what are the benefits of those? And what are 2 or 3 steps below that? So I get a fuller scope of their capabilities and I can make that decision if I want to spend more or spend less based on what I'm going to be receiving. Like, is it worth for this type of product that we add all these extra benefits if it's for fishing, or if this is more of a fashion product, they might not need these. So you can kind of tailor your cost of goods based on what that product's end goal is going to be. And, a female product that's really just for looks doesn't need all the bells and whistles from a coating standpoint or anti-reflective interior coatings. Like you can kind of just pull those off if you need to. So it gives you a bigger picture of how to make the right decisions or what you're getting.
Mm. Uh, over the years, I think everybody has a secret desire to create a brand, they've got an inner inventor, right? That's constantly like, man, I should build that. Man, I should create that. Or, my wife, dude, she's came up with like 100 inventions, I swear, since I've known her. And I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. But I know what it takes to go from nothing to something. And over the years, like 25 plus years, it's like I've worked with so many people and so many concepts to where they didn't really have the product ironed out, right? And they thought that was the easy part. And the branding and the e-com or whatever, that was the hard part, the messaging. And dude, I got to be honest, like I've worked with companies and they're like, yes, we'll have our prototype in 3 months, right? A year down the road, right? Still working out kinks, right? Still ironing everything out. I think everybody, even from a t-shirt company, right? To you see them now, they're everywhere. T-shirt brands, t-shirt companies, you see them all on social media. People still don't really understand what it takes to build something like that, right? To make it happen. And I think, can you share anything about that? Because I know we got a lot of listeners. I know my wife is a prime example. She's always like, hey, honey, let's build this. Let's do this. I'm like, do you really understand what goes into that? Like creating something out of nothing, right?
Like how we went from nothing to a product.
Yes. I think that would help a lot of people have that inner yearning, right? To constantly create that first product or prototype, right?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I like to share with anybody who wants to start out. One of my first recommendations is a big whiteboard.
Yeah.
More so because, like you mentioned, everyone's got ideas. They all have things that it could be great. I have ideas in the middle of the night that I'm like, oh, I should make this. And you forget them or they just get lost in your head because everyone's life is crazy and you're busy. But what's not busy is if you write it on a whiteboard and you can visualize what the things, even if you did a brainstorm and say, all right, here's all the things that I can think of at this moment that it's going to take to build a product. I need to find a manufacturer. I need to have a brand name. I need to pick a domain. I need to get a Instagram handle, all those things that you need to do. And you can look at that and say, what can I do myself today, this week, this month? Okay, let's start working towards these. What do I need to outsource? I can't build a website, so I need someone to help me with this. And you kind of trail that down. What's that going to take? What's it going to cost? What are some options? And it just allows you to keep moving forward versus getting stuck on something like a name or whatever that might be in your process of taking it to a reality. Because it's easy to get stuck and just stall and then just never do that. That's one piece of it is that you have to keep moving forward and get it out of your head. And I think a notebook is okay, but I think a whiteboard, if you're really want to do this, something that you can see every day, that you pass by every day, that's just a little reminder like, hey, all you got to do is go on GoDaddy and buy this domain. That's not a lot of time, but that also creates a little bit of momentum for them as well. Like, oh, well, now I got a domain. Now I have to go get the Instagram handle. Now that I got this, now I got to go make a logo. Oh, now that the logo's here, now I got to build a website. It just kind of keeps you moving to that, to where eventually you'll have to make a product at that point, or else you just a really cool landing page. Um,
Right.
but so I'm trying to think of the other. Oh, also just getting. I recommend other people coming in when they get to that point of having their brain dump and all the things written out, getting some perspective from other people. Because I feel like when you're in it so deep that it's almost like if you wrote a big paper in college and someone else reads it, they might read the first sentence and be like, "Why did you put this?" And you're like, "Oh, no, don't worry about that. That's I didn't mean to put," like, you're too in it. You need someone to come out and be like, "Have you thought about this?" Like someone that maybe doesn't even know business, just to get some interesting perspectives that you might not have thought about in your journey to get to that product. Like, what do they really care about? Does this make sense to them the way that you're seeing it? And then trying to put yourself in that perspective of who is buying this? Who's your ideal customer? What did they care about? Instead of you, like, I think this looks cool, but do other people think it does? And I've seen that through our products over the years. There's some that I love that don't sell, and some that other people love that don't sell. And we have to look back at the data and say, look, it's not coming back. It had its window and didn't sell at the rate that we wanted to. So we're killing it. And that was the data perspective. But I think early on, just getting some other perspectives from people that you trust that will give you real feedback, not just the people that want to say yes to everything, because people just want to hype you up and excited for you and just say, yeah, it looks great. No, like, who's going to be real with you and say, why did you do that? And you having to explain that, I think, is the most powerful thing, because then you're really reflecting backwards on, wait, why did I make the logo this color? What does it even mean? Did I think it looked cool at that time at 11:30 at night when I was building it? That'd be my early advice, just to get momentum in the direction you want, is really prioritize and then just start bucketing it off things that you can't do that you need to outsource. It keeps little wins going forward.
Mm, mm.
Sean, was your initial vision when you got into this, like, to really have a big selection and variety of glasses, both for men and women? Because sometimes, like, businesses, they'll have that one flagship product and they sell that thing forever, and it just makes their business take off. Versus you have some, I mean, with your price point of those glasses, I mean, you have to sell good amount of quantity to be able to sustain that business. And so, as you were just sharing, you talked about, hey, we tried this one. It really didn't take off. It didn't produce how we wanted to. So we scrapped it and worked on this next one. And you're sharing stuff like, we found out who our ICP was. So we knew what they were looking for and we created based on that. So can you comment on kind of your direction? Did you want to become this company that offers all these different solutions? I know, you have a different mission and kind of what about we'll get into in a second. But, where did you originally see it? And are you on track with your original vision?
I think early on, we started with the idea of we were going to develop out more styles. We didn't think we were going to have 1,000 different options. I don't know if I even had a number, like we want to have 75 different SKUs. I think we wanted to start out with a few and get that proof of concept that we could sell these online. Really didn't think people were going to buy sunglasses online, but they do. So early on, our first product was a Wayfair. That was the first go-to in terms of, this is the most unisex, fits men and women equally, the best. Let's start with that. And then we introduced an aviator, a metal aviator, and both those did really well. And just, I think the natural progression of it was, hey, we need to continue to try and test new styles, mainly looking for, what are we lacking? What are we not offering? That's kind of what I look for now is, what are we missing in that? Similar to a hire. I try to find not necessarily just a culture fit, but what is our culture lacking as a unit that we can add someone in that's going to expand upon that. And even from a product standpoint, it's hard. Eyewear is tough to find what's going to win, what's not. Everyone's face is a little bit different. I have people that say, "Oh, I have a fat head." I'm just like, "Well, I can't fix your face, dude." So I can make a product that's a little bit bigger. But yeah, the vision wasn't to make this have 75 plus SKUs. It was
It's just kind
this
of
constant
evolved.
and evolving of like, hey, these keep selling and have continued to sell. We're going to keep them in the lineup. And we do have our core 10 to 12 SKUs that move the needle. It's very similar. People say the 80/20 a lot of times, and it's pretty true with we know what's going to sell every year. It's kind of the safe play for people. When they go to the site, they might think this looks cool, but this one they're going to lean to no matter what.
Yeah.
Uh, and then that's just how we test new products. We start smaller quantities, see if there's movement, put a little bit of marketing behind them to give them the right platform and spotlight they need to see if there is that emphasis and momentum for them. And if not, we just don't put as much priority into that product.
I like how your website shows you can actually shop by face shape. And because you just brought up something that I was going to ask about was sunglasses are one thing I would never buy online, because I can look at your site and and I'm like, those look awesome. Then I order them, I take the time, I wait, they show up, and I mean, they look like a clown on my face, right? And it's like a hat. You can see a hat and be like, oh, I love that hat. You put it on and it sits up top. Jason and I talked about this. Like,
We had to order uniquely for Jay Hill.
and I was like, he orders like hats for children. And I'm like, dude, that sits like on the crown of my head. But like you only sell e-commerce, right? You're not in any retail locations?
We sell in retail as well.
Oh, you
So
do?
we
Okay. How?
outdoor,
Go ahead.
yeah. And we sell outdoor shops, surf shops, boutiques, are like the main businesses for us.
Are people starting, like you mentioned earlier, talking about like Maui Jim or Oakley's, these brands, iconic brands, Ray-Bans, they've been out forever to where, as a high price point, people understand it. You alluded a little bit to where at the end of the day, glasses are kind of glasses. I mean, there's only a certain amount of materials you make, there's elements you can have, but truly these brands that get, really high price point is more of the brand perception. It's more the brand identity, the elements they put into it, like Tiffany for jewelry, to where you're going to pay a lot of money just because how the brand has put themselves out there and want to show up. They're luxury, they're high class, things like this versus your price point. You know who you're going after, so it appeals to that audience. Holy cow, where was I going with this? I think my question was, do people know the Nectar name, to where they go out and they're like asking for Nectar glasses like somebody would an Oakley or a Ray-Ban? And if not, is that a direction you're going, or are you kind of content with, being out there, being available for everybody?
Yeah, and the retail side is tough. It's a tough industry. To me, it's a service industry at its core needs. If you think of a shop owner at a surf shop, you can call somebody and ask, "Hey, is the eyewear buyer in?" And they're like, looking over their shoulder, and that person's saying, "I'm not here. I don't want to talk to you." Yeah, they're not here right now. It's like, all right, it's a challenge to get in. It's a retail space essentially. Like, is there space for us? And you have these brands who've been around for 20 plus years, and they have a rep that's been with them for 10. They don't want to bring in someone new and start that. So it's a different approach. It's harder to get in to retailers. I do think the online marketing effort does help. There are shops who reach out and say, "Hey, people have been coming in asking for these," and we kind of see that based on where we're really focusing on the East Coast side now, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But that's where we'll see more people reaching out, like, "Hey, I saw you guys here. People are asking for you. Would love to chat." And that's the easiest. That's the best when they do that versus our team going after new accounts and finding new ways to get into retailers. Sometimes we have to buy out their slowest moving SKU. Like, do you want to look cool and have this brand, or do you want to make money? We'll buy whatever's left. If there's 5, 10 left, let's buy them at wholesale, and we'll have an opportunity to make money together. And I think going into the East Coast brand position we're in today, we really want to represent this side of the coast. And I think that has helped us dramatically in terms of getting into new places, whether it's the Outer Banks or Maryland, just saying, "Hey, we represent where you're from." These other companies, they're owned by one mega company. They don't care about you or where you're from. And I think that's given us a little bit of an advantage and angle to approach them versus, "Hey, we're just this random company." Having a decade plus of marketing does help, and being around for that long does help as well. But overall, we want to have both of those simultaneously running. E-commerce to us is a must-have, and the retail is just a supporting character in this role where you might see them 3 times impression-wise online, go into your local store and see them, and then it all kind of resonates, and hopefully they try them on there and purchase them. So they both help each other in different ways.
Talk about that repositioning, that evolution, that brand evolution. Like we chatted before, and you were just like, we were trying to serve, you know, all these remote places, all these extreme places. And then you were just like, something isn't right, right?
Yeah, it's early on, our photography was all over the place from Dubai to California to Hawaii. And my co-founder exited in 2018. And at that point, I hadn't really done a ton on the front end of the brand. And for me, I got introduced to a great company up in Richmond, Virginia. At that time, a smaller branding agency. And for me, I wanted to find a way, like, how do we stand out? It's so hard to be different. To your point, like, glasses are glasses. You
Yeah.
can go to the gas station, buy them, Amazon, buy a brand that's not even a real brand for $6. Like, how do people really care about that? And I, always knowing that the brand is so important, it's got to resonate with people in different ways. And this company basically took us and helped us redefine who Nectar was in a way that explained to my dad that, hey, it's like if you see someone dressed up for the first time in really nice clothes, you kind of get taken back. Like, didn't know they could look like that. So same Nectar, just the right clothes that fit. And for me, I wanted the brand too to fit my personality and who I am. Like, I walk people to the door. I'm a laid back. I like good conversations, authentic people, and I want to be around those types of people. How do we make the brand feel like that? And this agency put together multiple options, which I thought was really impressive. They said, hey, make sure you pick which route you feel like you can live up to. And they knew based on our multi-day deep dive what I was going to pick. The other two would have been great too. But we went with a campaign called Salt of the East. And it was really positioning us as an East Coast eyewear brand, regional from Maine to Florida. That defines our content, who we work with, who we partner with, and was really exciting for me because I wanted to find a way to represent where we're from and not just making up names for products. Now our naming system is all geared around cities and towns that we want to elevate and that we love, whether we visited Shenandoah Mountains before, we love the trails there, or Naples, Florida for people who love that type of chilling at the beach, to Tunic, which has an amazing break up in New Hampshire. Like, all
Cool.
these places that we love, and give them the pedestal they deserve. And it helped us really say no to people that are in Dubai or Fiji that want to do content for us that, well, it's not relevant for our audience. Let's take care of our backyard. I think Costa is an example who did a great job at really just being initially this regional brand. Offshore fishing was their niche, and obviously they nailed that. And I think with us being a bit more casual outdoor activity based eyewear brand, we want to, follow a similar path to that and not try to be everywhere. It's hard. It's hard to manage reps in different states. It's hard to manage them in my office. So there's a lot of elements of like pulling it back home that really do benefit a lot of things, from the focus to managing reps and shops we're targeting.
I
I
love that.
love it.
I love. So you're saying that like those different cities and locations, that's actually like a style, the name of a style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So we have a Chucktown for here in Charleston, a Folly for Folly Beach here. Those are the two in here. But Wynwood for Miami, it's a really cool arts district down there, just all up and down. Shaco is one of Shaco Bottom, Virginia. In Richmond, Virginia, it's an art district down there where Dave Matthews started playing back in the day, in the early days. Like, there's just a lot of cool. We want to play into the depths of those things. Our aviator, for example, is the Kitty Hawk. That's where aviation was invented, and
nice.
the things that we should be proud of being from this area. And the East Coast has a lot to offer, from founding this country to the accents and cultures. And I don't know, you guys are in Charlotte, but down here, I'm sure they said there, bless your heart is an
Yeah. Right.
insult.
Yeah. It's calling you an idiot.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you go to New York and there's energy. There's, Philly, there's these gamblers that don't stop at stop signs. They're just like, there's so many different accents and ways that make the East Coast special. We want to lean into those places and tell their story a bit more through who we work with in the photos and videos that we tell.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, stuff like that is, a key differentiator. Because if you're in a business to where, like you said, I mean, it's low cost to produce. I could go somewhere and buy $6 glasses. I could say, Sean, what makes yours different than these $6 glasses? And it can't really be about the product itself. I mean, if we want to expect quality, I know if I'm going to the dollar store and buying glasses, they're going to break by the time I get to my car. And so you have that expectation on really cheap crap, but stuff where, I mean, quality is going to be decent. It can't be the quality components that are going to make you different. And so you go in, and for people to connect with that and resonate, because you're sharing that about the East Coast transition, focusing there, it's like the quote, you try to serve everyone and you'll serve no one. And I think that's one thing that people get wrong when they start a business. Or as Jason said, his wife comes up with all these ideas and products she wants to launch, and you got to get honed in. I mean, there's riches and niches. And if you really know who your audience is, who you want to go after, then you can craft that message to them. Because like you said, if you have people in Dubai and all over the world, it's not resonating with your brand. But, if I saw something that said like Kitty Hawk here, being here in North Carolina, I mean, immediately there's like kind of emotional connection there. Like, this is awesome. This really connects with me and this resonates with me. And that's setting yourself apart than all these other brands. And so kudos, man. I think that's a job well done.
Yeah, Salt of the East. I don't know. I always hear that I sound like I'm from up north. But
dude, nobody has ever said that.
Hey, no, for real. I love it, man. I love it. Like he says, aviators, that's my jam. And why is it the sunglasses that I spend like $3 on, I could throw them out the window and they come back to me? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
A backup pair will be a cheapo pair, but I think they keep them because they stick around because you don't wear them as much.
Yeah.
Kind of where the price point started was the idea is that these are just depreciating assets. You're going to lose them, break them, scratch them. Someone's going to steal them. And if they're not, you're not wearing them. And that's just what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to get beat up. And the hard part is when, someone scratches a lens, it's, there's no scratch resistant lenses. You drop them on asphalt, that's just what happens. Unfortunately, your Apple Watch will scratch if you drop on rocks. It's impossible. We don't know what people do with them. We've seen some carnage come back. Photos and stories are pretty fun to get sometimes, but people destroy these things in different ways, whether it's sitting on them or I don't know if you guys have ever left your coffee on a roof, but things happen to them. And that's why we wanted to make this price point accessible, one, but two, not be a burden to be wearing a $300 pair of glasses that feels like your MacBook's falling off the table if it drops. It shouldn't feel like that.
Right.
My goal is to make a product that enhances your environment, whether that's hiking, driving, whatever you're doing, but also be an asset to that adventure outfit and be there with you. I think I have this vision. I can't pull it together fully without really going into it, but I want to have they're just a companion for you, for your trips. And a lot of people post on social media, you made it to Costa Rica to the surf spot, but what about you packing and you at the airport, sleep on the plane with them, the taxi rides, all the things you went through to get there, they're with you. And I think they're part of that journey. They don't get enough credit for being there with you the whole time, but they do make it better. You get to that wave and break in Costa Rica and you put your shades on and have a beer. It makes it pretty damn good at that point.
Whoa, what a story. Like,
That's cool.
Visually, like, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Let's go, man.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Sean, with Nectar, I mean, you also have, I think, another one of your key differentiators is the impact that you guys are making. And, you had to be specific and focused on that. Like we talked to a lot of organizations, and if you don't set the stage and create what your brand is about and the impact you're making, then, other people are going to make that for you. And so you got to be clear on that. And so you have a slogan on your website that says, when you wear Nectar, you're not just seeing the world, you're helping protect it. And you go into the recycled shades and how you're repurposing single-use plastics into eyewear that's affordable. And so it invites people in to be a part of something that's actually helping our world, that's actually helping. And that's where people, it's a beautiful thing to do because people want to become part of that. They want to become a part of a movement, that's doing something. Now, in our pre-call, you said you weren't doing this from the beginning. And so if you can kind of comment on when did you start doing this, the transition that you made and why you started doing this?
Yeah. So early on, we weren't. We're building the business. But as we got deeper into it, I did a surf trip in 2019 to the Maldives and got to experience a reef that was fully white capped there. And I had heard about this. Everyone, I think until it hits you in the face, it can be out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people that don't really see the truths behind things. And I saw a reef that was almost fully live over there, which is beautiful. Fish everywhere. And then another spot we went and dove, and it was dead. And all the locals said, "Yeah, this was vibrant 15 years ago, full of life." I don't know, for whatever reason, yes, it was shocking, but I just kind of took that with me, and being on a boat in that ocean for 12 days, thinking about it, like, man, I'm mass producing plastic right now. I need to find something that I can do, even though that's not going to make the biggest impact in the world. It's going to be something that's positive and not the opposite direction. So from that moment on, spent 7 to 10 months really developing, testing different products from recycled water bottles to fishing nets and looking for different sourcing of these things. And for me, the aesthetic was really important, meaning like the weight and how they feel. Some of these products, if it was just water bottles, they're seemingly more fragile and lighter than our current product line. And my goal was to find something, a way to find a material that would feel as close to as what we were making with this new recycled look. And our current mix that we landed on is a blend of different materials to give it the weight that we were looking for. So it's food cap or bottle caps, food containers, so like Pyrex containers and water bottles all combined. So it's hard to say like, oh, each pair is 12 water bottles, but we don't have that flashy marketing number because it is this mixed material, but it does take single-use plastics in a processing facility that repurposes them into the pellets that we use to inject our frames. And today we're at about 85% fully recycled, and that goes into our packaging even to the lens protector that ships with them. That's all repurposed materials. My goal is to have it 100% by mid next year. We're working on different ways to get the lenses recycled, which is a challenge, but we're getting closer with that as well.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. Do you know the statistics? A lot of time we know there's pollution and there's plastics and all this stuff, in the ocean. Do you have the numbers of like how much actually is out there?
I think they're on the website. It's a lot. It's a lot of plastic, and even in our industry, there's not a lot of people as big as eyewear is. There's really no one taking this approach. Not no one. There's maybe 5 to 10 companies that are doing, whether it's one line that's recycled or maybe 2 other brands that are doing fully recycled, which I appreciate that they're changing the way we do things and the way that this industry runs. I think these older heads, if you will, have been doing it the same way for a long time, and yeah, they're developing new styles and looks, but not necessarily fundamentally what they're doing to the environment by continuing to make these same material glasses over and over and over again.
Gotcha. I just hopped on your site. I want to share these numbers just so people can understand the impact that you're making, while you're doing it. So 1 million plastic bottles are bought every minute. That's crazy. Every minute of every day, a truckload of plastic is dumped into the ocean. That equals 1,440 truckloads a day. There could be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050. Wow.
Insane. And like that's the research I started doing once all that happened. And that surf trip, it was just eye-opening that you get more exposed to it. It's like hitting the wrong algorithm on TikTok for a minute. You're like, whoa, there's so much about what's happening.
Hey.
The more I researched, the more I got fed more information and just kind of led me down that wormhole.
I think so often, people, ignorance is bliss. Right. And so we don't want to know certain things. So we're just we want to justify and validate something over here. And it's like, well, I'm just not going to learn that. You know a little bit about it. That's what I'm saying. Like, we know about the pollution. We know that there's all this stuff in the ocean. But until you kind of see that, and it's like it hits you. And I mean, unless you're just not human, you can't be impacted by some of these things. And so you go on this trip in one of the most beautiful places on the planet, you're exposed to that. And now, I mean, I could only imagine you wouldn't in your right mind keep producing the way that you were producing. No one over here, you're getting tugged at like, man, that something's got to change. And we have the ability to impact. We have the ability to change this. And again, that you communicate that message, then people aren't buying a product anymore. They're buying change. They're buying, these things that are impacting. And I think those kind of things are why people would spend more money, than buying that cheap pair of glasses, going back to, because they're like, hey, everything that I do here, I know that I'm making a difference in the world. And we're created as humans to where we want to make an impact. We want to do these things. We want to see change. And so again, just hats off to you, man. Jason, I can't wait to get a pair of Nectar, sport them.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, I got mine right here, but I really don't. These are not Nectar, but Sean's hooking us up.
Yeah,
Jason, I think that's the wrong thing to do. You interview Nectar and you're promoting a non-Nectar.
Hey, well, we didn't have time. We're gonna have an episode 2. We're gonna have Nectars. Like, we're just getting the party started.
Yeah, I'll trade you.
Trade me.
Yeah. So yeah, all right, Sean, you mentioned that earlier. With the retail strategy, you go in and the challenges of trying to find the eyewear buyer. They don't want to talk to you. They got loyalty with their previous buyer, and you would see kind of a skew of a different company that is just not doing well. So when you would buy off that, I mean, are you just trashing those? Are you recycling those? Are you like,
Try to
what are
flip
you doing
them.
with them?
Yeah, we try to flip them on eBay or somewhere to get something for them. Every now and then they just sit. We give them away just if we needed to, but typically we're not buying more than 20. Yeah, that's kind of like.
Okay,
But I've seen some where they have a sale rack and there's four. It's like, I'll buy these. Let's do this. And a lot of that, it's hard. My sales guys now, they don't offer that. I think it's me. If I go in somewhere, I just don't care, and I'll say that to them. That's not their approach initially, but that's kind of on a post follow up, like how was the shop? What was the feedback? Did you see any, like, part of their criteria is looking for opportunities like that? Is there space on the counter where there's surfboard lessons flyers? You could easily put these somewhere else. Why don't we put our small display here that takes up a 12 by 12 footprint, but can generate you $1,000 a month or free stickers? So you got to find the ways that it fits into each one, and they're all different. I mean, one of our best retailers here in Folly Beach, I went back in the office and they had an old school pencil sharpener. I said, geez, I haven't seen one of these crank pencil sharpeners since I was in elementary school. And so you have shops that might be really old school, if you will, that want to talk to a rep face to face and write on a magazine, or, on the magazine, circle what they want on your catalog. And they have some who don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to do it on our online portal. And that's how they operate, and everywhere in between. So, like, that is also the challenge of this, is that you have to adapt and evolve to finding space, opportunities. How do you be a good fit for them and do what they don't have time to do, and set them up for, hey, here's an opening order. It's already made. We know these are going to sell. Let's start with this, versus letting them, if you give them an opportunity to pick what they want, they might take 3 weeks to pick because they don't have time. So it's just learning all the things that you can do to make it easier for them to make a decision to move forward. And once we're in, we just see them sell. That's the hardest part, is getting in.
so there's a lot of people in your shoes, maybe not selling eyewear, but different products to where they have those same challenges in business going into a retail shop. So, do you have any advice, like strategies of, let's give the example you said, you call or you stop, hey, it's your eyewear person here. They don't want to chat with you. Like, breaking through that, is it persistence of just following up over and over and over again? Is it something that you drop off and leave behind to where they want to reach out to you? Like, anything you can share there?
Yeah, so many things. Tried a lot of different stuff. I think locally, I think if you're starting out trying to get into shops, person, you going in there and talking to them and just building that relationship. They're all relationships in their own way, and you got to sustain those. Like, if you open an order and you don't deliver on time, that relationship's hindered already. Like, you have got to keep your word and do what you say you're going to do. But being able to go into a shop, speak to them, know who you're working with, get to know them a little bit. That, to me, it's like, I think my emotional intelligence is way higher than my actual intelligence. I'm really good with people, and I coming from the youngest of four siblings, I've had a lot of experiences. I love to connect with people, and I think you got to break that down first. If you're not just go straight into a sale, like, really get to understand how long they've been in business, how long have you worked here. Ask more questions to get them to talk about themselves a bit more. So while they're talking, you're just getting bullet points to put in your pocket. Which one do you want to pull out, and does it make sense at that moment to pull that out, because that's going to be the most resonating at that moment. Or, but yeah, locally starting out, going in person. And then something that's worked for us for shops that we can't physically go to, one, just the squeaky wheel gets oil mentality of, like you email them, they might not be email people. They're freaking sharpening pencils with number two pencil right now. They don't
Right.
use email. They got a Hotmail email address. Like, you don't know
Wow.
It's a
their
big
tech
clue
savvy.
right there.
Yeah, you don't know how they operate just yet, and to what extent. So we started doing this thing where we'd ship out a sample. If we really felt good, we did enough research. Hey, this has been in business for this long, great location. Here's the current brands they're currently selling. We feel like we can fit into that price point gap. So looking for, if your product is something that's not 100% unique, will it fit in their product mix, and that at that price is something we do evaluations on before we go out and cold call. Like, you don't want to just call everybody and have no clue of what you're getting into. Like, is
Bingo.
this a shop or is this a surf shop? We don't want to be in a Wings where they're selling hermit crabs. That's not really good for our brand. But we would send a sample to somewhere we really wanted to be in. And before we called, so we'd send a sample to them, track the delivery. As soon as it got delivered, we'd call and say, hey, is the eyewear buyer there, whoever, the manager? We speak to them. And we talk to him and say, hey, did you get the free pair of shades we sent you? So now, instead of me calling and saying, have you heard of us before? And giving them the opportunity to say no, they have that product in their hands. They're touching it and it creates an immediate yes. Oh, yes, we got it. Cool. That's the first yes. Awesome. Did you open it yet? No. Oh, can you open it? I want to talk about it and share a little bit about Nectar. It just helps our team have a better opening conversation. When you get that one opportunity to speak to that right person, they are holding our product because they have nothing to compare us to. We can say what our frames are made of and the lenses are made of injected PC. Like they don't know what that looks or feels or what that experience is like, but them having it in person has been a big factor of at least getting more opportunities to give us a chance versus a cold call. Cold calling does work. Every now and then you hit them, but I think going in person is more beneficial. Having a strategy like that of like, how do we, I met a guy he did similar kind of smoked products, these little rolling papers, but he would send out a free little pack that you just open. It's a really nice, easy POP display that they can put out right by the checkout. And he would send them an invoice for a PO with $0, cost $0. So they could actually make money on it and be able to account for that. So it helped with their accounting, knowing, hey, we sold all 24 of these. We made money. It cost us nothing. And then he'd follow up a few weeks later and be like, hey, how'd they sell? Yeah, we sold out. We'll make another order. And it was just a way for him to kind of get into it right away by offering something up front, because it does take that. You think about online marketing, we're spending a lot of money to get someone to click, to buy. There's that opportunity cost that you need to look at of, is it worth paying for a sample of your product for free that's going to create revenue long-term for you? And everyone's strategy is a little bit different of how they want to approach that. But I think I've found that just giving them to the shop guys isn't really the best way. If you're going through town, oh, here's some swag, like they get swag from everybody. What's going to make you different? How are you going to be a little bit different than them? Because they might not wear it. I think, luckily eyewear can be worn frequently. T-shirts, you got to wear them once a month, twice a month. More than that if you're really good at laundry and it's your favorite shirt, but eyewear at least can be worn more frequently, and those guys could wear that. But you also got to talk to them and tell them about it to get them to, kind of parlaying into how, when we have relationships with creators, for me, it's really important that me or our team spends 15, 30 minutes with them so they truly understand the brand. Because you can DM them on, pick a style, cool, what's your address, send them a pair, we want this type of content. They're going to go post it, but do they really care about the brand? Do they truly understand that we're East Coast position, that we use recycled products? What can get them excited about it? And I've just found that I give up a little bit of my time or our team's time to really getting to know them. They're more excited about it. They're going to make better content for us and talk about our brand in a much better way than just doing one post. So I think all that time, opportunity cost of like, do you want to go to the shop? Do you want to spend time with them? Whether it's 30 minutes, you might get caught for an hour and a half, depending on how that goes. But all that is valuable if you're going to get an order. And I remember the first move to Charleston, I wanted to be in the Kevlin Surf Shop. They've been around at that time for 40 years. So this is the one I want to be in. And I went down, introduced myself multiple times, and just was getting this, cold shoulder. And finally one day I just said, hey man, I'm just going to drop off 30 pairs for free, consignment. And then you do what you want. I just want to prove to you that they can sell. And I remember their GM was like, yeah, that's my magic word. Don't recommend consignment to people. I do it. Use it when you really think it's necessary. It's not ideal. But after they sold, after 30 days, they've been one of our best clients ever since, every year, ordering all through the season, super consistent, great relationship now. And it just started from that one drop where, yes, I put time in. I would just hang out there and be like, waiting for someone to talk to me, because I knew that was a spot that I wanted to be in, because Folly Beach only has 2 surf shops and it was either that one of them or the other. And that's what I chose back then.
Dude, that is so valuable, everything you just shared there. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are listening, because that's where it's at right there. Sean, I mean, main takeaway there was building a relationship. I think so often, people go in, and especially a sales team, it's different like an entrepreneur. You have to do all of it. But sales team, I mean, they're going and people can tell when you're trying to sell them. You go in versus building the relationship first. And I heard once, it's like the know, like, trust factor, to where somebody has to know you exist first. And then once they know you exist, they have to like you. And it's only after they like you to where they're going to trust you. And once you get them to that place of trust, you can ask for the sale. You can ask them to move forward. And it goes into every relationship. I mean, I talk about how I met my wife. all the time to wear those same things. I mean, I can't just right when I meet her say, "Will you marry me?" She's got to know me first, know what I stand for, know about me, my core values, all the things that are important. Then she actually has to like me. And it's only where she likes me that she gets to trust me. And then once I have her trust, I can ask for the sale or ask her to marry me. And I think so often in business, people neglect that. They neglect understanding. You walk in, you chat with a person, you kind of jot down some mental notes or write it down of the things that are important. So when you go back for touch point number 2, you can bring those things up as an anchor point. Then when you see them for touch point number 3, you continue to build that relationship and grow that rapport with that person, because we're in an instant gratification day and age now, to where when people go out with sales, they want it right now. And, they I heard one time it said, a no really means not yet. And if you approach it from that perspective, it'll change how you approach business, because, there's the salespeople that'll go out and they get that no, they just move on to the next person looking for that yes. But do you understand why they said no? And, understand the nurturing that's required to go back and get them, because you did the research, you found the shop, what you said, you knew you wanted to be in there. You wouldn't do consignment traditionally, typically. But with this one, you knew you wanted to be in there. You did the research, saw those opportunity, you wanted to be in that shop. And so those are fantastic nuggets to drop, man. So thanks for sharing those.
Yeah. And what I heard, Sean, is the cost of doing business. A lot of people get that wrong. We're in a performance era, right? Performance marketing, instant gratification, as Jay Hill said. The cost of doing business, bro, if you calculate all the time you spent to get that one client, a lot of people wouldn't do that. They don't truly grasp the cost of doing business and building a brand, where brand equity creates return, long-term success, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to have both. You've got to generate buzz for marketing, right? And to bring in that instant gratification and that performance marketing. But there's also this other half that is hard for people to understand, that building a brand is an investment. It's a long-term investment, right? I mean, you're talking about your time and everything. I mean, you might have spent, equivalent to $2,500 to just to convert that one person, but you've had them for years and years and years and years. They recommended. I mean, it's paid back in dividends, right? With exposure. That's hard from what I've seen, at least with this new generation of brands and e-coms and the B2B businesses, right? And manufacturing, is they're in the same boat. They've got a story, and they don't know how to invest properly into the brand equity side. Now, they know the CFO, right? And the C-suite, they know about performance marketing, about bottom line numbers, but they don't understand how to set them up for, the 2-year mark, the 5-year mark, the 10-year mark, right?
Yeah.
And just hearing your story, I think I want that reality to sink in with people. Like, the actual cost of doing business, it's not always a simple equation, right? Let me spend $100 and let me get $500. It's not going to work that way. It's not reality, right?
Hmm.
It may
Yeah.
work short term, but then you're just a footnote in the grand scheme of things.
And I think I try to think about this as a brand is like our customers, how do we make that a relationship too? It's a communication. It's, we're not this massive company. We care about our customers. And I think from being at a retailer, and yeah, if they like me and they have someone selling the exact same product and they like me better, they're going to buy from me. And that's through that time you put in relationship building and just spending that time, because everyone's time is valuable. And if you're able to show them that you're there and you want to be present with them, and people respect that. And it's, even I was talking about the creators, and I kind of circling back to the Maldives, I remember this, why I want our team to spend that time with people we work with, because it goes further. And just checking in on them, this photographer, videographer is a good friend of mine. We don't work with him as much anymore because he's been in Hawaii for a long time, but super talented. And we went on a trip together, and he said, "Hey man, honestly, when you reached out to me from Nectar and just checked on me and said, how are you doing? It meant so much to me at that point in my career, working with different brands, getting paid to do what I do. None of them reached out to me to check on me. They just said, hey, can we get this content? We'll pay you for this new gig. And it was just that one little thing went so far for him. And it was a powerful moment for me too, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just checking in, checking in on him, because he's a rad dude and I wanted to see what he's been up to. But that meant a lot to him. And that's how I really feel like there's going to be a shift into, can brands really communicate well with customers, and not, to your point, like, I read an article once, it was called Brand versus Bland. So kind of like the super funded companies that just skyrocket, but they have no legs. They have no foundation they're built off of. They're just built on top line revenue as fast as you can grow, but there's no soul. There's a hello from Quip or whatever the email is. Like, is it a real person? Is it AI? Like, I think there's going to be this shift towards, like, we are real. And how do we communicate that through the brand, whether it's through emails or SMS or calling people physically again and actually talking to them, I think is going to carry a lot of weight down the road. When I think there's going to be a trust factor with, is this, the only trust will be me talking to you right now, or is this an AI version of you two and we're just on this thing? I think there's going to be a distrust that's going to bring things back to, like, old school in a way of how do we capitalize on that opportunity?
100%. As we finish up this episode, Sean, like, one thing that kind of jumps out to me is your personal brand lines up with your business brand. And a lot of times, like, so we spent an hour chatting with you today, so you can tell, for everybody that's listening and watching, you can tell who you are. You can tell what's important to you. You can tell what motivates you. You can tell everything about you because you are a personal brand. And if you go look up Nectar, that lines up perfectly. And so a lot of times with online brands, it can be a faceless brand. So you don't know who's back there, who's behind this brand. You buy a product, but people truly don't want to buy a product. Or they don't buy from brands, they buy from people. And so when you go in and you talk face to face and you're building these relationships with people, they see there's an authenticity there. And we talk a lot about how authenticity is the anchor to any brand. And so if I'm talking to Sean, I feel like I'm talking to Nectar. When I'm talking to Nectar, I feel like I'm talking to Sean. And there's that merging there. We say, the personal brand and business brand being synonymous with one another. And I think that's something that you do well. And I think that's something that a lot of brands can understand and put a little more focus on, of making sure that who they are and their personal brand lines up with what their business is.
Internally, it's their brand culture, right? It's permeated, like, externally, customer facing, like, spot on, Jay Hill. Like Sean, you put in the work, right? And I see it. And I just want everybody else, listening, check it out, man. This is like a great example of what you should be doing.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
So, Sean,
Yeah,
thanks so much for spending an hour with us, man, sharing your story. Jason and I are excited. Guys, we've already talked about it. We're going to head down and visit Sean locally in person. So because we're saying it here, it's got to happen now. And we'll have some Nectars next time we're on. But Sean, where can people shop? Where can people learn more about Nectar Glasses?
Yeah, you can. Our website is nectarsunglasses.com. You can look up Nectar Sunglasses on Instagram. Maybe your local shops, if you're on the East Coast over here, that's where most of our retailers are. But I think Instagram would give you a good idea of what we're about and the lifestyle we're trying to push people to get outside and live more. And hopefully when you guys get down here, we might get you on a surfboard in the ocean or go boating.
Let's
Come
go.
down.
There you
Thank
go.
you guys so much. Look forward to that trip when you guys make it. But I appreciate the time on here and for you guys helping us get our name out there.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you, and we'll drop that link in the show notes as well so people can follow you there, your site, your Instagram. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you later. Peace.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening and joining us on the Love Your Brand podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, share the love.